It's working? Awesome. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I think we are going to wait just another minute or so for everybody else to come in. There were a few stragglers, so just we'll take another minute. But how about the Chili's? Yeah, who liked the food tonight? Was that it? Was that a hit? Cool. All right. Awesome. Great. Well, let's start by going around the room. I do want to kind of see what brings everybody in tonight. If anybody is interested in sharing, do you hear about us on the Quest website? Are you a Quest client? Are you new to real estate investing in general? What's the consensus? New. Awesome. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're definitely in the right place then. Perfect. Anybody else want to share? Yeah. hmm Unfortunately, especially on days where it's raining and Park Row is like a flood zone, pretty much. Yes, great. Well, I guess without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. And I do want to make a short introduction for our speaker tonight, Joni Wolfswinkel. She and her husband have been longtime real estate investors, right? Managing properties. They have their own management companies. Have been received a lot of awards, both personally and on the business side, for some of the things they've done in the real estate industry. So I'll kind of let her speak a little bit more to that. But yeah, without further ado, guys, please welcome Joni up here.
I'm super excited to be here this evening. Thank you, Quest, for having me. So I'll be teaching some best practices on property management and tenant screening. So for those in the room, who actually owns rental property? Quite a few of you. Camille, yes. How about over here? No? New? All right, so whoever that raised their hand, if you're brave enough, tell us what challenges have you experienced so far being a landlord, if you're brave. What was that? Bad tenant? Okay.
Somebody aside from my tenant was living in the house.
Yeah, okay. Maintenance.
I would say there's lots of relationships. What would you say is the biggest one? The biggest one? You know, so we have 45 rental, and we manage them ourselves.
Okay.
I would say if you want to get more properties, you have to have a property manager once you hit over 30 properties. Like
it's a lot of work, right?
Yes. It's a full-time job.
Absolutely. And if you haven't had challenges, if you're a landlord, you are going to have a challenge at one point or another, right? And so hopefully today I can give you some tips, some tactics that you can use in your current business, or if you guys are new, some takeaways of what not to do or what to look out for. That can help grow and scale your business, but also one idea that can maximize the return on your investment. Would that be worth it? Yeah, absolutely. So before I get started, just a little bio on myself. You kind of hit it there. So my name's Joni Wolfswinkel, and I started my real estate journey at 19 years old. So I bought my first rental property at 19. At the time, I was actually going to the University of New Mexico. I was planning to be a nurse. Thought that was the plan. And I happened to actually be watching a late night infomercial show, Russ Whitney. Does anybody know that old guru? Yeah? Okay. I'm aging myself there. But this guru, he was teaching people how to buy and sell real estate using little to no money down. And I was a broke college kid that was living off ramen noodles, and that spoke to me. So went to this 3-day seminar and fell in love with real estate. And I was wholesaling properties throughout college to get me through college. And then in 2005, moved here to Texas. It was the height of the foreclosure market. And so I was in my 20s knocking on pre-foreclosure doors, making agreements with homeowners, negotiating with them, talking about getting out of your comfort zone in your 20s, right? That was the best sales training that I had ever received. Loved it. I probably flipped houses for a good 10 years or so. And then 2010 hit. What happened? Recession, right? I had an oh crap moment. Like, what am I going to do? I had 15 properties that were on the market and I couldn't sell them. I turned to my husband. I was like, look, like, we got to do something different. This is our livelihood. What can we do? And so we thought, well, if we just rented them out, then, you know, eventually the market would come back and we would be able to sell them. And so that's what we did. We made that plan. We rented them all out. And then we're like, you know, so what am I going to do now? So then we switched our model and actually started to sell the investment properties to investors. So turnkey. So we'd buy them, fix them up, get a tenant in place, and then we'd sell to the investor, and then we would professionally manage for the investor. So who would have thought that's kind of how our property management company started? So today I have 2 different property management companies, one in Houston, Texas, and Albuquerque, New Mexico. I have my build-to-rent company, and we bought and sold over 1,800 homes in our career. So, and now my passion is giving back to you guys, helping investors like yourself build wealth through rental real estate. So that's kind of my story. We do have a podcast called Inside the Wolf's Den. So if you are new to real estate, highly recommend they check that out. It's Inside the Wolf's Den. Tons of awesome guests on the show, real estate related, entrepreneurs, you name it. So I think Camille's tuned in a couple of those episodes. So cool. So now we'll get started. So the biggest mistake that I see investors make today is not properly screening their tenants. Why is that? Who can tell me? What was that? Turnover. How about Jeff? Why investors, yeah, they don't screen their tenants properly.
Too eager to get the money flowing.
There you go. Go ahead.
It takes some time.
It does.
Talk to the people that can give you the rental history.
Right. Yeah. Some people don't have the processes and procedures in place. They don't know what they don't know, right? Also technology, right? They don't have the correct background system and credit report system to be able to do that. But the biggest one of all, letting your emotions take control. Who has ever made a decision based on emotions? We all have done that. I have myself. And so I'm telling you, going off emotions is not going to get you anywhere. Placing one bad tenant can cost you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. It can lead to evictions, loss of rental income, vandalism, theft, sometimes a combination of all those, right? And so really, really taking the time to properly screen them is going to be crucial to maximizing the return on your investment property. Take my friend, for example. So Mr. Johnson, he's actually one of my favorite investors. Didn't make the brightest decisions though. So he purchased this property in 2018, thought that he took a maintenance make-ready class or a rehab class or something, thought, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the rehab himself. So he did the rehab himself, but he also had a job. So it took him nearly 6 months to complete that rehab. Now it's time to, so that's already, 6 months of loss of rental income right there, right? Because time is money. Getting that property rent ready and on the market is money. And so once it was ready, he decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and find the tenant myself. He put an ad on Craigslist and found a quality tenant, he thought. Well, this tenant had background issues, had credit issues, and she's like, oh, please, oh, landlord, can you please let me into the property? I'm back on my feet now. Everything is great. He let her in, didn't do any screening at all. And then he came to me, he's like, Joni, I need help. She stopped making her payments. Like, this is right after COVID had hit. And she stopped making payments altogether. So, and this was in New Mexico. So Texas at least is a little bit more landlord friendly, right? Well, New Mexico, it took me 2 years to get her out. I call her hot pants for a reason, because every time I would go by to do a cash for keys, which is what I would did during COVID, she was wearing her hot pink yoga pants like nothing ever happened, right? And so the point is, I finally got her out. This investor, this was his first investment property. Do you think he ever purchased a property again? No. Put such a bad taste in his mouth. He's like, Joni, I'm so sorry, I love you, but I can never be a landlord again. I get it, but just that one bad experience could put you out of business, right? I mean, right there. All right, so I'm going to get into some fair housing laws. So why do you think it's important to know the 7 protected classes? I have some real estate agents in here. I'll put you on the spot because we all have taken real estate courses. Why is it important to know the 7 protected classes when, obviously dealing with tenants?
You just want to know that you're not discriminating by accident or setting yourself up to be sued for something you wouldn't see coming.
Yeah, absolutely. So knowing the 7 protected classes, guys, I mean, this is going to keep you out of trouble. Obviously, as you grow and scale your rental portfolio, you are going to be a target, right? You can't discriminate based on the 7 protected classes. So if you don't know what they are, learn them, because this is extremely important when you're marketing your property. Also, when you're speaking to tenants, right? I had one just last week. The investor is like, I don't want children in my house. I'm like, la la, I didn't hear that, right? And so that's a protected class. So just be careful, because as you grow and scale, you will be a target. And so you want to make sure that you're doing things the right way. Oh, I'm going to go back for a second. So what do you think the number one, I kind of gave it out right there, but the number one complaint among landlord?
You said children, but I would say like dogs.
Kids.
So it's actually disability. And it is emotional support animals and assistance animals. All right. And so a lot of investors make this mistake as well. They're like, I have a no pet policy. Well, if you have a no pet policy and you have somebody that comes with an emotional support animal or assistance animal, is that legal? No, sorry to tell you, you don't have a no pet policy, right? Can you charge them a deposit if they have an emotional support animal? No. Can you charge them pet rent? No. What's kind of sucky is that as landlords, we're kind of stuck in a hard place, because anybody can pretty much register their animal online and say that they have an emotional support animal. Granted, there's legitimate people out there that have a disability, but there's far more people out there that will take advantage of the situation, which puts us in a hard place, because there's only so much that we can say or do, right? So that way we're not violating the fair housing laws. And so I will give you a tip though. So we actually use a platform called Pet Screening. So write this down, guys, petscreening.com. Anybody can use this. And so what this company does is they are a third-party vendor that will screen all of our pets. So if I have somebody that says, hey, I have an emotional support animal, they fill out the application, we submit it through Pet Screening, and they do the dirty work for us. They get the doctor's authorizations to make sure that it's a legitimate emotional support animal. What do you think the percentages of tenants that actually fall off that say that they have an emotional support animal? It's 85%. Yeah. Yep. This right here is gold, guys. I mean, and what's also really nice is that for just regular household pets, this works with too. So they give us a POS score. So just like our tenants get a credit score, our pets get POS scores. So anywhere from 0 or 1 to 5. And what they're looking for is to make sure that the animals actually have their current vaccines, that they didn't destroy a property before, that they are insurable, right? There's some insurance companies that won't allow aggressive breeds like pit bulls, right? So this company is really helping us. And the third thing that it helps with as well is for the ones that are not supposed to have pets and they show up and they have pets, right? So they're actually signing off on this addendum with Pet Screening saying that they know and understand they are not allowed to have pets in their property. If they do, they can be evicted and we can ask them to leave. I actually had an eviction not too long ago where HOA called me up. I can tell you stories about all different issues that we've had, but this particular case, so we had an HOA call me and was like, "Hey, Joni, there's one of your tenants is roaming, or they have pit bulls that are roaming around in the neighborhood. 2 pit bulls roaming around in the neighborhood." I'm looking at them like, "No, this tenant doesn't have any pets. I mean, they signed the addendum and everything. There's no pets." And she's all, "No, you better go inspect the property." So gave a 24-hour notice, went out there to inspect the property. Sure enough, they had 2 pit bulls and they were destroying the property. They had only been there like 3 months, destroyed the property. And so we ended up filing eviction on them, and the judge evicted them because of that. And they tried to use this emotional support animal card, and they couldn't because they had signed the addendum. So just cover your assets, guys. And we'll get to question and answer later. Exactly. I don't know. I mean, could be, but yeah. So they were busted though, and they had to leave. And then he came back later and tried to file a fair housing complaint because we were discriminating. So again, you're a big target, and so just cover your grounds. So pet screening, make sure you got that. All right, the next thing is verifying income sources. Now, this is huge. If you have not been subject to tenant fraud, you will be, right? Right now, it is on the rise, guys. I'm not lying to you. Last year, I think, Brett, it was 1 out of 5 applications that were received were tenant fraud. Something was wrong with their application. Either their driver's license was fake. They were submitting paycheck stubs that are fake. There's scanning systems out there that you can do that with. Bank statements were, fake. And so just making sure that you are looking at, like if you're an underwriter, a loan underwriter, right? We have some mortgage guys back here. You are actually looking at that information thoroughly because you will be caught with tenant fraud. Yeah, last year, we had an investor come to us. He had like 10 properties that he wanted us to manage. 2 months after we started managing the property, Brett got a friendly visit from a special agent, right? It was actually my birthday. I'm like, "Oh, a special agent's here to see me?" And Brett's, "No, this is serious. Like, this is a special agent here." So they were trying to take down a fraud lord, somebody that was applying for properties. They were in properties and they were taking the rental assistance money. And they happened to be in one of our properties that our investor pretty much handed us over this portfolio to say, "Hey, can you help me out with this?" So it took us a long time to get that tenant out of the property because we couldn't do anything. They didn't want us to say anything because they were being investigated. And so it is on the rise. So I'm just making sure that you have everything lined out. I don't want to scare you, but it is serious out there and it's only getting worse. Okay. And just looking at the items carefully, right? Does this story match up from the time that they talk to you on the phone to the time that they put in that application? Does their application match with their, credit report, their bank statements, all of that, right? And just getting, we had one that they said that they were making $100,000 as a Walmart cashier. So, just red flags like that, it can't be right. Ask for additional documentation. It's okay to ask for additional documentation if you don't feel something is right, okay? Checking social media platforms. Now, I know that you have to be careful with this because you don't want to obviously discriminate, right, using the fair housing laws, but you can find a lot of information on social media. You can use this to verify the information. Is their employment on social media match with what's on the application? What's their marital status on the application? Do they say they're single, but then they're married, right? Pets, we've caught that. And also, you can see their behavior. Like, what's their behavior like? Their communication styles. I've caught some where they're bashing their landlord. Okay, well, that might be a red flag, right? And so just using the information just to verify and make sure. But again, just be careful that you're not using that as, it's just a tool that you can use in your tool belt to help you make an informed decision. Okay. And these are just some red flags that I have on here because these are, things that come up all the time. The applicant must be in the property today or tomorrow. Everything must be rushed, including the background checks. So if they have to be in the property tomorrow, that's probably a red flag. The applicant claims that a parent will be living with them and the parent is the only prospective resident with good credit. I see some smiles. Have you had that before? Yeah. When cross-referencing the application, you see that the applicant's employer or property manager is also a personal reference. That's probably the number one. We get that a lot. I'm living with a family member, or you get somebody that you call them and they say hello, those kind of things. It's you can catch those things.
Just barely.
Yeah.
I called for the previous one.
Uh-huh.
They're amazing. They're wonderful. And then just a month ago, we find out the real landlord called us and said, no, they tore up my house. And we just put them in a brand new house.
Wow.
And we're like, oh.
It happens.
It's been here 2 months, and we're like, oh, we need to go.
Yep. And that's the reason why you just don't get the current landlord, but you also get the prior landlord, because most likely that current landlord, they probably want to get rid of them too. So they're going to say all the good things about them, right? But the prior landlord will tell you all of what they did, and they'll show you all of what they did to the property. So.
Have you ever given a mostly fair review on somebody moving out to somebody who's reaching out to you for a reference?
We have, yes. I mean, we have to be careful with that, and we're not discriminating, but and we give them the basics. Did they pay rent on time? Were they late? Did they destroy the property? You can give them those facts. Now, going into the details of it all, I probably stay away from that because they can hit you for discrimination, but you can give them the facts.
I mean, do you generally give them a more positive review because you want them to have
Oh, no. Us? No. Oh, I see what you're saying. No. Yeah, no, we don't. Yeah. But there's some landlords that will, though, because they want to get them out of the property. We do tactics like cash for keys, those kind of things that really help them, letting them know that their credit is going to be destroyed if they don't get out of our property. So those are kind of the tactics that we use. Good question, though. All right, leasing criteria. This comes up a lot. Like, what do we recommend and what's best practices for leasing criteria? So a combined gross income of 3 to 3.5 times the amount of the rent is what we look for. Clear credit history. So what does that mean? No background issues, no evictions, no bankruptcies, anything like that. If they are self-employed, we require that they give us tax returns to kind of prove their income, right? And also stamped as well, because we want to make sure that they're legitimate. They also match their bank statements as well. And then we just talked about this right now, making sure that you get proof of residence, not just from the prior, but also the previous landlord, to make sure that everything checks out, because that's when you'll really find out. Okay. This chart is awesome, and I would recommend that you guys take a picture of this, because this is kind of what we use for our application processing and the criteria. So you'll see at the top is our credit score, and then on the side is the income amount. And granted, I know that people are online watching this, so depending on what state you're in, obviously you have to make sure, because here in Texas, we can actually, is it off? Oh, here in Texas, we can actually ask for more than 1 month's deposit for the risk, where in some territories and some locations you cannot. Like in my New Mexico territory, we can only ask for 1 month's deposit. Okay. And so we do things like getting around it, where we'll ask for 1 month deposit, but then we'll ask for a first and last month's rent. Okay, so we do stuff like that to get around it. But this chart will really help you to navigate, okay, what is a good quality tenant, based on their income and their credit score, and what we would recommend as far as the deposit, whether it's a single deposit, if they have good credit and good income, or maybe we ask them for a double deposit or a deposit and a half, depending on the risk factor, right? And then at the bottom there, it kind of gives you an idea. So good rental history, no more than 1 late payment per month. Fair rental history, you'll have no more than 2 late pays in a 12-month period. and then bad history greater than 3 times late in a year period. So that's kind of what we use as our guideline. But this is great to have in your processes and procedures, and email me afterwards and I can actually send you a copy of our checklist and our leasing criteria. Non-sufficient funds. Yeah. So if they're, check bounce, stuff like that, and those kind of things. So this is actually our leasing application scorecard, another great tool here. And this really helps when, you have multiple applications and you can screen them based on their credit score, their rental history, collections, employment, and it kind of gives you the score. So if it's a score of 12 or higher, it's approved, right? A score of 9 to 11, at least 50% increase in security deposit or double deposit. A score of 8 or below is an automatic denial. Eviction last 3 years is automatic denial. So again, creating some sort of system, processes, and procedures for yourself, so that way, if you're doing this, or like in Camille's case, she's got 35, 40 properties. It's hard for you just to do this yourself. So you might have to have somebody else, or if you have a third-party property management company, make sure they have tools like this as well. And this is just our leasing application checklist that we have. And again, I can send all this out to you as well, so you have this in your processes and procedures. All right, and just some takeaways. So another big mistake that I see investors make is not budgeting enough for maintenance and repairs, right? And so guys, I'm telling you, that is one thing that you have to budget enough for maintenance and repairs. It's going to happen. If you want your tenants to stay in longer term, you have to do maintenance, okay? Putting a preventative maintenance schedule in place is also crucial. So we do periodic inspections. So we will go out there semi-annually and just make sure that the tenants are, number one, complying with their lease. There's no surprises there. And that there's no issues going on. Maybe there's a leak underneath the sink that the tenants never reported, right? And so we are looking for those issues and to catch them early before they become bigger issues, right? That's going to cost you more in the long run. Air filter programs. So we actually have all of our tenants on air filter programs where we actually drop ship the air filters to their door each month, right? And so it's kind of a convenience factor. They see it drop ship to their door. Oh, I need to remind myself to go, change that air filter. I actually put my husband on the air filter program because we went out of town and we were gone for a couple of weeks, and he forgot to replace the air filter before we left, and came back in, and our AC unit was completely frozen. I'm like, well, honey, you forgot to change the air filter. So I put him on our air filter program so he gets those drop shipped to his door. It's a reminder of, okay, it's time for me to go out there to do the inspections. Our inspector is actually looking, because we have on our thing, it has the date of when they were sent to them, and so then we can see if they actually changed those or not, and the date of when they've changed them. So our inspector will pull it out and they'll put it on their kitchen counter and be like, look, this is what you're breathing, right? And charge them for that because it is a violation. So just things like that. Scheduling pest control after move outs. Again, if you want your tenants to take care of the property, you also need to be taking care of the property, and make sure the property is clean before they move in. Make sure the make ready is complete when they move in, because if it's not, the only tenant that you're going to attract are probably the bad tenants that you don't want anyway. And those are the ones that are going to destroy your property. So if you want good tenants that are going to keep your property up, give the property in clean order, make ready, all of that. Okay. Another thing, protesting your taxes is going to really help with maximizing return on your investment properties. I'm sure everybody protests their taxes here. Yeah, it's a must here in Texas, right? So yeah, making sure that you do that. Another thing that we do is we have roof inspections conducted after every major, hailstorm, any type of storm, because again, if we can get the insurance companies to replace that, that's maximizing the return on your investment property, so you don't have to come out of pocket with that down the road. Okay, these are things that we look at. Educating the residents on where the shutoff valve is. That's huge. Before even the storm hits, we actually have a manual that we send out to our tenants, like this is what you need to do to prepare for the storm kind of thing. So that way you're not having those, late night calls and damages later that, those kind of things, which it happens, but just making sure that you show them when they move in. And we actually do a tenant orientation. So each tenant comes into the office and we give them the rundown of, what we expect from them. And then we show them where their water shutoff valve is. And so that way they can go home and locate that and they know exactly where those things are. So it definitely does make a difference. And just treating this as a business, guys, right? As you grow in scale, it's going to be harder and harder to keep track if you don't have the processes and procedures and if you go off emotions, right? So just treat this as a business and highly recommend that you budget a percentage of your rent. Typically, we say about 10% of your rental income should be set aside for any future maintenance, just in case something happens, okay? Because you are going to have those water heaters go out, those ACs go out, roofs, those kind of things. And so you want to make sure that you have that allocated so you're not surprised by it, okay? As you can see, this is a lot, right? There goes into property management. There's a lot. So, and you might be that person that says, you know what, I don't want to deal with this at all. And I want a third-party property management company to do this all. And so this is just a list of questions. As you're vetting property management companies, these are things that you should be asking your property manager. How do they handle, move outs? How they handle maintenance? What does their leasing criteria look like? What does their screening process look like? Do they even have a screening process, right? Just making sure that, and if you have a single family home and maybe they specialize in multifamily, that's probably not a good fit for you. So really, really vetting your property management company. And a big one is I run into a lot is if the property manager doesn't own rental property themselves, is that a good fit? Probably not, right? How can they tell you how to manage, or how can they manage your property if they don't know how to manage a property? So these are just some good questions that you can take away from as well. Cool, and that's it. So this is actually my information. Again, if you want to scan that, email me, and I can send out a packet of information, some of our checklists and processes to help you in your business as well as you grow and scale. I'd be more than happy to help you out. But I think you're going to come up here, and then if we want to do a question and answer, we could, right? Okay.
Just turning this back on. And I totally forgot to mention this beforehand, but for the Q&A, we're going to use this little cube that you can also talk into.
Okay.
You can throw it around, so we'll do that.
Perfect.
But yeah, real quick, I do just want to go through a little bit of information about Quest. Yeah, Joni, I can bring you back up here.
Yeah,
afterwards
I'll just
if
stand up
that
here.
Works. Okay. So let me see a show of hands. How many people have been out to a Quest event before? Okay, so a few of you first time. How many of you have never even heard about Quest before, or self-directed IRAs in general? Okay, maybe one or two. So I do kind of want to just go through briefly and explain a little bit about how Quest comes into play in all of this, right? How do we help individuals in their real estate, alternative investment world, I guess. So we are a self-directed IRA custodian. If you don't know exactly what that means, the best way to think of it is I always kind of compare us to other financial custodians, right? Charles Schwab, Fidelity, anybody like that. We just operate completely on the private side. So whereas those people are investing, over in or more traditional assets, right? When you have accounts with them, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, CDs, right? You name it. Anything like that people typically think of. Quest, we're on the alternative side completely, right? All types of non-traditional assets, real estate, notes, private companies, oil and gas, mineral rights. That's kind of the stuff that a lot of our clients are investing into. So to kind of go into more of the reason why this is beneficial, right? Why do real estate investing through your IRA? It's the exact same reason you do any kind of investing through your IRA, right? For the tax advantages. For example, when I use my IRA to purchase stock in Apple or Google, Tesla, right? Doesn't matter who it is. Depending on kind of how it's structured, you're at the very least not having to pay any taxes on the gains of that stock or that investment until years down the line, right? Once you retire, you start needing the money to live on. You won't have to worry about any of the investment gains or profit up until that point. Works the exact same way with real estate. So when we're talking about a rental property that is cash flowing, right, you can receive all of that cash back into your IRA account completely tax free. Potentially deferred, maybe even free 100%, right? You avoid it, the entire capital gains, income taxes, right? Whatever it is. So it can be very advantageous. Obviously, it depends on fit, right? Does it make sense? I won't say every single time that it makes the most sense to do these investments through an IRA, right? It really all does depend. And that's kind of where we can come into play to help you guys, look at, does it make sense? Is an IRA right for me? Should I be doing these personally instead, right? So feel free to scan that QR code or go to our website, email us, anything like that. And then a few other things that I do want to go through here would be some of the other classes and webinars that we have. So this is kind of our schedule moving forward, at least as of right now. And you can see all of these on the events page on our website. Self-directed IRA Saturdays, that's been a pretty big staple for a long time. I think really ever since COVID is kind of when we started those. Those are completely online. Actually, Joni, you've done one or two of those before, right? And so, yeah, we always, very similar to this, we bring in a speaker, somebody to talk about some, kind of alternative asset topic, typically tied to real estate. Self-directed IRA socials, right? That's what we're doing here tonight. We host them in Houston, Austin, Dallas. For those of you that are online, or if any of y'all wanted to join the socials online that we have in the other cities, you're more than welcome to. National networking happy hours. Those are an event that is really strictly for networking. It's completely online. So that way it does kind of offer, an option for individuals who are, across the country, not in the state of Texas, or maybe not near a Quest office, to kind of be able to interact with, like-minded investors. So LinkedIn Live classes is something else that we have. These are also all online. We started these recently, very similar educational format, just kind of another way to reach out to the community, provide, a source of education. And then you can also watch all of these on YouTube. So this will be recorded, right? We'll put it on our YouTube page after this. I would certainly encourage you guys to check this out. Check out any of our other videos if you're interested in learning a little bit more. And then we do have, this is just kind of a little information about the social we have next month. It's going to be just networking. We don't have anybody coming in to do like an educational piece. But if you're interested in talking to other investors, I would certainly recommend this. You can find out more details about that on the website. This is kind of a promotion that we have going on right now. If you guys are interested in discussing how this might make sense for you, I certainly would encourage you to reach out to me, any of the other IRA specialists. You can find me after this. Happy to share information, give you a business card, set up some time to speak, really whatever you guys need. And then if you're looking to move some money over, maybe you've got it currently in a 401k, another IRA, TSP, TRS, sometimes those are pretty common. Anything like that, you're able to utilize those funds to move it to a self-directed IRA to invest. And that's kind of what that rewards for deposit is referring to. Excuse me. The last one here is a kind of what we call the Elite Multifamily Summit. So it's all multifamily investments. It's a day-long event that we have going on in Dallas, Texas, August 12th, which Rebecca, that's a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. The August 12th? Saturday. Oh, okay. Well, then I am mistaken. Saturday, August 12th. I want to say tickets to that are $120. Yeah. Early bird is $50. 75. Okay, $50 through June 30th for early bird tickets for those that couldn't hear online, and then $75 after that. So if you are interested in that, again, details will be on our website. Oh, it even says it right there. I didn't even notice that. Early bird tickets only $50. Cool. Okay, awesome. Well, I'm not the only one, but that's really all that I've got for you guys today. So if Joni, if you want to come back up here, we've certainly got some time to do a little bit of Q&A, and then if anybody is here to do deal pitching, we'll kind of get into that afterwards. So
That sounds awesome.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, does anybody have any questions? Want to get things started? I'll bring this around, so and you can just toss it.
I think all of the things that I was not.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. You were gonna ask a question?
Oh, no, her question that she asked me before, I'm like, now I can think of all of it.
They all come up at the end, right?
Yeah.
Go
Well,
for it.
thank you for the great presentation.
Of course.
You talked a lot about the protections for tenants through
Mhm.
FHA.
Mhm.
What protections are there for landlords?
So we do have an owner's benefits package that we offer, and so it covers eviction protection. So, for example, if a tenant, skips out on rent, we have to file eviction. Then we will cover the cost of the standard eviction. Also, we have a cool program where it's part of the owner's benefits package, but it's landlord rent default insurance. So if the tenant, skips out on rent, then if you're on that program, then you can get up to 2 to 3 months worth of rental payments. So again, if we have tons of programs out there to help the owners, because it's a risk factor, right? Either you have 40 properties, maybe you're okay with the basic standard package, but if this is your first investment property, you might want to include the eviction protection, the landlord rent default insurance, because you just never know what could happen, right?
Sure.
So we do have programs like that for you.
Thank
you. Good question.
How do the expectations differ from owners that have their property in an IRA versus the ones that do not have their property in a self-directed IRA?
So I actually have some of my personal investment properties in IRA. No different. I mean, the only difference is that we send the funds directly to you guys, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's actually pretty simple.
So
Yeah.
are you speaking about like how you manage expenses, pay bills out of that account?
Yeah, so the rental funds, so when we do our owner draws, those funds go directly to the IRA. But when we actually say coordinate maintenance, those kind of things, we use those funds. So it will be on your owner statement, so we can deduct it from that. Whatever's left over, we send to the IRA, basically.
Yeah, and that's how a lot of property managers work. They'll just take that kind of off the top, send the rest back. Yeah, really the only main difference is that it kind of facilitates through us a little bit. We review documents, just make sure that everything is titled properly, because different from how you would normally own a house, it's actually your IRA who's quite literally going to own it. So the IRA has its own title, it's listed on all the documents, the deed, right, everything like
Exactly.
that.
So we look at that, before. So when we're onboarding with you, if you say, hey, I have this in IRA, then we will get with Quest, make sure we have all the documentation that we need, warranty deed, all of that in place. Yep, and do all the paperwork for it.
Yeah, great
So
question.
we'll help you with the paperwork as well. So
Yes. Thank you.
So does that mean that you can't do the closing in an IRA or
that might be the closing, and
you have to own the property before you put it in the IRA?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's important, because you can't go from personal to IRA. Now you can always go from IRA to personal. So like something that a lot of people like to do is they may use their IRA to purchase their eventual retirement home, rent it out for 10, 15 years until they're ready to retire. And essentially it's almost like you're distributing cash to yourself. So it's not really like a sale, but rather the valuation of the house at whatever time that is treated to you as taxable income. But then you just, amend all the documents to be shown in your name, that you're the owner now. And so that's one thing that some people do. But yes, first purchase, you always want to make sure that happens through the IRA, because it can't go into IRA from personal, if that makes sense.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you want to pass it.
Yeah, thanks very much for the
Of
wonderful
course.
talk. Yeah, I have two questions.
Sure.
One is you spoke about the emotional support pets.
Mhm.
Is there any protection to the landlord if there is like damage resulting from those pets?
Well,
Even
we
if they have
can't
the-
collect a deposit, so if they damage it, then it goes under the tenant's like regular security deposit, right? But and that might not be enough. So
you have to collect enough deposits, basically.
Yeah.
Sort of. Okay. Thanks. The second one is so for the properties that that is being managed by something like a turnkey
Mhm.
or a property manager,
Mhm.
if there's like a legal issue, like if the renter is trying to sue the landlord or something like that, where does the liability lie, on the landlord or on the management company?
That's a good question, because we are actually kind of like the buffer, right? Like we take a lot of the liability from the tenants. I mean, because the lease is really with real property management and the tenant. So we do have where your insurance will have additionally insured with real property management in case there's anything bigger, right? But we actually assume a lot of the liability, which kind of shields you away from a lot of that's the benefit of using a property management company. So I settle disputes all day long. I go to civil court all day long, to kind of fight some of these bad tenants that try to take advantage.
And how do you get
Oh.
information from previous
Sorry, can I-
landlords?
Can I have you say that again, just so everybody online can hear as well?
I forgot.
The verification of previous landlord.
Yes.
So usually on the application, I would recommend that you ask them for current landlord and prior landlord. So that way you can ask for that information. And there's actually software systems out there now that will actually do the verifications for you. So for you that have 40 some properties, that's maybe something that you want to do to make the process a little easier. But it is a lot of work. I think you said that, right? It's a lot of work on the front end, but it's worth it, right? It's definitely worth it, so you get that quality tenant up front and not have to deal with it down the road.
Is it some kind of website or something where?
So our software system, and that's part of actually using a property management company as well, is our software system does that for us. But I know that there are some out there, so you just maybe researching rental verification softwares, and there's a few out there. I can't recommend one right now, but we do that for you. That's something that we do.
For example, you have bad tenant, can you put the information somewhere?
No, that's a good question. I wish that somebody needs to develop that. Yeah, that would be with the pet screening. You can, though. They're starting to, so if they leave, damages with the pets, then pet screening is starting to report some of that stuff. So
Awesome.
petscreening.com. We actually make the tenants pay for it. It's like $10, well worth it. But they also can use that. So if they're taking their pet to like a park, right? Some of these parks require screening as well to make sure that they have their vaccine records and everything. They can take that report with them. Hotels, and so it's a good report for them. Yeah. Good question. Yeah, so when they apply for the property and say they have an emotional support animal, or they just have a regular pet, we give them the pet screening link. So you'll get a link from them, and they just go on to pet screening. They fill out their information. They ask them, for documentation, like what was their last vaccines. All this information that they ask for. If they say that they have emotional support, they're asking them for doctor's authorizations, all of that, doctor's numbers. And so we stay completely away from it. right? Because that's what you want, because there's only so much you guys can say without violating the fair housing laws. So let them handle it. They will give you a message back and give you the documentation of it is a legitimate emotional support animal or not, or if it's just a regular pet, what's the POS score between 1 and 5. And then typically if it's a 3 to 5, that's we'll go ahead and approve them. Like if it's a 3, we'll ask maybe for a double pet deposit, right? And so you can do things like that if it's a little more risky. It just helps you make better decisions, really. So.
Yes, non-refundable pet deposit versus refundable pet deposit versus pet rent. Can you speak to those?
Yeah, so we actually do all of it. So we do a 50% of the deposit is non-refundable. So you keep, the other 50%. And then we do a $25 per pet rent. So, if that's additional income as well, if you ask for pet rent. And that's actually kind of on the lower side. I know some that will charge $50 per pet.
And so you do 50% non-refundable.
Right.
So a typical amount for a pet deposit.
So if everything checks out, the POS score is 5, $300. If the score is a 3, we're asking for double that. Good question. What was that?
The maximum POS score. What is the maximum POS score?
5, right?
Oh,
Maximum POS
yeah,
score.
right. POS score. Yeah, sorry.
When you have tenants who don't want to leave for a cash for keys deal, what is their typical issues and what have you done to try and mitigate those to get them out?
Yeah, good question, because I have a background. Obviously, I did 10 years of pre-foreclosure investing. So I would physically go knock on doors and make agreements with homeowners. That's what I did for 10 years. And so that's helped. And that's basically what it is, guys. Like having a conversation with these tenants. They're human beings, right? I think a lot of landlords take it the opposite where, I want them out. They're screaming at them. They're cussing at them. They don't like them. They're humans, right? They're going through issues or they're going through situations. So just having a normal conversation with them. I go to their door, sit in their kitchen room table and say, look, like you're going to have to move out of this property eventually, right? And so let's just go ahead and do it now. If I can give you a little bit of money to move and whatever you need, it's a lot cheaper to do it that way than for us to wait, for the courts 3 months, right? And then say that they file an appeal at the courthouse, then we have to wait another 3 months. That right there, guys, is 6 months worth of, I'll give them their deposit back just to move if it's that bad. Well worth it. Good question.
Yeah. So if your criteria, one of the criteria is must have a rental history, and so then if there's some prospect tenant that came to you and says they don't have any rental history, whether they are like brand new to the United States, they just got a job here, or they kind of like they're having issue in their marriage and they're separating, and so then or they owns their house. Yeah, they owned their house before, all that kind of story. Do you just automatically strike them off because your criteria is must have the rental history?
We do, and the reason why, we will look for, another candidate down the road because the chances of that person defaulting is pretty high. And so, again, our residents stay in our property about 3.5 years. And so that's what we're looking for right there. So I will gladly wait another month if I have to, just to get the right tenant.
Awesome. Any other questions?
If you have a conflict and you go to court, are you expecting legal fees from that tenant?
So we do. So if it's a situation where we get that a lot, where they don't agree with our security deposit disposition, right? Because we're required to send out a disposition notice 30 days after their move out with a breakdown of what we deducted from the deposit. And we do have tenants that will dispute that, and every now and then they'll take us to court and try to fight that. And so, yes, we have an attorney that will fight for us, and charge them or go after them for the attorney's fees if we have to. And we don't try to go there because the only ones that actually make out are who? The attorneys. So again, we are also, bringing the tenant in and saying, look, like, let's go through the disposition together, and try to settle it because it's really better for everybody in the long run.
Yeah, I'll give you this time.
So what's the kind of threshold of problems that you pick up on? You could have like your tenant, the first day they move in, their application, they had 2 cats, but you saw them move in with 3. Do you care or?
Oh yeah, we care. We do. And so we are on our inspection. So we actually we do semi-annual inspections, but we started at 3 months because you can catch a lot of things within 3 months, right? You don't want to wait till 6 months and find out that they have a cat and the cat peed everywhere. And now you have to figure out how to, get the smell out, So if you catch it at 3 months, then you can nip it in the butt right away. If they do have pets, then follow the procedure, pet screening. If they get approved, then great, we will add them to the lease, if the pet's approved. If not, then they have to remove the pets or they have to leave.
So when you find somebody that's, light on an application that has 3 cats and not 2 like on their application, are you starting to dig into that more immediately, or do you just not turn over other problems until you find them?
We if we find out about it, like for example, the HOA, we act on it pretty quickly, because it's also setting the example, right? Like if they know that they're going to get away with it, they'll try to get away with other things as well. Okay, so
Good point.
Yeah.
Can you catch? I'll toss it to you.
Sorry, this might be a stupid question.
No
but
question is stupid.
Are
Believe
you
it.
allowed to have like a monitoring device in the house?
You
are
cannot.
renting out?
You cannot. The tenants
Like-
can,
Okay.
but you cannot. A monitor, like a camera.
Oh.
It's good to know these things though, because some people would think it'd be fine, right? Until you get hit with a lawsuit or something. So
So that story where you had somebody that's no pets, but then the HOA called and said there's 2 pit bulls. And so then they came back and, I got confused somewhere. They came back and said they were emotional support animals.
So
Or-
later, when we actually went
How
to
did-
court,
Yeah.
the tenant said that they must have got an online certificate right before we went to court. So they had proof to the judge that they were emotional support animals. But then we took all of our pet screening documents with us saying that, no, they said that they didn't have any pets. They didn't have emotional support animals. And so our judge went off our pet screening documents.
But they didn't have pets to begin with. So why did they do pet screening at the beginning?
Because they have to do it on every tenant, no matter if they have pets or not, has to fill that one out.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yep.
What are the typical charges for property management?
So we have 2 different plan options available for our investors. Our first one is our standard plan. Management fee is 7.9% of the collected rent. So again, we only charge on collected rent. So if it's vacant, we don't charge on that. That's how we make our money when your property is leased out. And then our premium plan, which is includes the eviction protection and the tenant placement guarantee. So if that tenant, skips out on rent, then we will replace the tenant for free. So again, it's kind of your risk factor. If you're a first-time investor, you might be okay with just the standard plan. But most of our owners and investors are on the premium plan for the eviction protection and the extra guarantees.
And what is the premium?
9.9.
And you only manage houses in Texas or outside too?
Houston and surrounding areas. So I manage north of Conroe to south of Texas City area. And then I have a market in Albuquerque, New Mexico as well.
Do you manage swimming pools, and are there other property features that you wouldn't manage?
We do manage swimming pools, and that's when we do manage them. So we want to actually have a pool vendor manage the pool, because anytime you try to get the tenant to manage the pool, it never, you're shaking your head, it never goes right? And so we will manage that for them and then charge the tenant for those services.
Great.
Yeah, great questions
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah, awesome.
I love it.
Is there anything else? One more. Okay. Here, I'll toss it.
So do you have a team that does the inspections?
Yes, yep. We have a team that does them, and it's actually a third-party vendor of ours called On-Site Pros. And so they have, as soon as the tenant moves in, we will give them the order to go ahead and start doing those inspections 3 months out. So they know on a regular basis, and they're actually meeting with the tenants and scheduling those with the tenants directly, to make sure that we get into the property. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Joni, again, thank you so much.
Yes.
Round of applause.
Awesome. See ya.
So now we are at the point of the evening where if anybody is interested in coming up, if you have a service or an investment,